Hi, PK9 viewers. I am Vyom Goel.
And I'm Dr. Sanjeev Goel.
Today we are interviewing Vanessa Woods.
Yeah, Vanessa Woods is an amazing author, journalist, and researcher. And she's the author of a number of books, including The Bonobo Handshake, The Genius of Dogs, as well as Survival of the Friendliest. But her latest book is called Puppy Kindergarten. It's all about how we can understand dogs' cognition and how they can be smarter. You can get that at her website, vanessawoods.net. But first, I hope you enjoy this talk, and we'll see you on the other side. Hi, Vanessa. How are you? Thank you so much for taking the time, and we'll just make quick intros here. So I'm Sanjeev Goel. I'm a doc and interested in this whole space of dog longevity.
My name is Vyom. I'm his son. I go to University of Guelph, and I'm aspiring.
Hello. Great.
He wants to be a vet, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time today, and I really appreciate it. Where are you located right now?
I'm in Durham, North Carolina.
Okay, North Carolina. Awesome. That's so cool. How did you get involved with dogs? Like, how did this become a passion of yours?
So we are actually part of an NIH project to try and figure out how to graduate more service dogs. At the moment, it takes like tens of thousands of dollars and 2 years before you even figure out if a service dog is going to graduate, and then half of them don't. We've worked with Canine Companions now for like over a decade, and they're just such an amazing organization. And we were like, what is it that you need? What can we do for you? And they're like, it'd be great if we could tell younger which dogs are going to make it, because now even with the best training and the best vets and the best trainers, it's really hard. So that's how the project started, and let's see, we've been doing it for, we've had 10 semesters of puppies through the program, so 5 years.
And so what's your background, if you want to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, like what's your educational background, and how obviously a researcher in this space, so what's your
Sure. I married into it. Yeah, my husband is Brian Hare, and he really launched this field of canine cognition like 2 decades ago. And we were working originally in East and Central Africa. So I was like a filmmaker. I did these little video postcards, and he was really interested in the cognition of these chimpanzees that I was filming and he was studying. And so we met, and then we got together. And I just became really interested in the way animal minds work, trying to figure out like what they were thinking and how to do that. Like I had a science background, so I went from science to journalism and then back into science again.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's very interesting. So it's really a work of passion. This is something that, and so what about dogs? Like, how did that begin for you?
I've always been a dog lover, but I think really dogs are just the best species for us to understand a lot about the way cognition works, because we can study them like we study kids. They're like super cooperative. They're really treat motivated, which isn't true of a lot of other animals, to answer the questions that we want to. Dogs are just really the best species. It's super easy to have them come in and then play some games with them. And we play the same kind of games with them that you would with young children before they can talk. Yeah, and it can really tell us a lot about how their minds work and how that's similar and different from ours.
Awesome. Did you?
Yeah, no, I was reading some of your book, and I thought at the beginning of your book, you started saying how like socialization really early is important for dogs. And so like a lot of my friends and a lot of the people I know tend to stay away from dog parks just because they don't like it. What advice do you have for them?
As in they don't like dogs? They're nervous around
they don't.
dogs?
No, they don't like just going to dog parks for whatever reason. So what advice would you have to those people? Like how important is it to socialize your dog at an early age?
Oh, the people with dogs don't want to go to dog parks. Well, we know that. I just thought your friends at school. Yeah, so we know that without any socialization, it's not good for dogs at all. But what we actually found is that, so we work with service dogs and people who raise service dogs, and they don't usually go to dog parks. They're like just socialized with people who come to visit, like the people that you normally have, and the dogs you usually encounter, like neighbors, dogs around the neighborhood. And we found, and we compared those to dogs who were like super socialized, like the puppies on campus. So they meet like thousands of people a semester, they have different parents, they sleep in the dorms, they just participate very fully in college life. And we found that there was really no difference to their cognition. It seems as though there's like a socialization threshold that it's good to meet, but above and beyond that, if your friends don't want to take their dog to a dog park, as long as they meet other dogs that they feel comfortable with, and like the other people, the kinds of people they'd come into contact with, if they're comfortable in the situations that your friends are likely to go on, then I think that's enough.
Oh, wow, that's so interesting. So you're saying that there really is no extra benefit to extra socialization of your dog. Is that what you're saying? A
Which
cognitive.
really was surprised for us, because all the puppy raisers
Yeah.
they're amazing. They take amazing care of their dogs. Their puppies go out and about, they meet, they participate in their lives, like the kind of lives that they have. They go to the shopping center and they go to like on vacations and all that kind of thing. But when it came to the super socialization that we did at Duke, like the puppies going to the hospital, meeting the nurses, seeing like thousands of people a semester, like having 4 different parents. So each puppy spent 2 nights in a different dorm room. So they weren't attached to one particular person. They had a lot of different parents. They had 100 undergraduate caregivers over the week. And of course, the whole Duke campus was their home. So that kind of like super socialization, it made no difference to their cognition at all.
So what made it important? What was important for development of their cognition? If it wasn't that, what was important?
So we think that if you socialize your puppy enough, we think that's enough. We did find this really cool game that we played had this fun result. It was just like you get a treat and then you lock it in a snap lock container and then just basically see what the puppy does. And so some puppies would really like try and solve the problem themselves. So they like scratch at the container and just try and get the treat out. And other puppies would just look at you and they'd be like, hey, you have thumbs, come open this for me. And so it was like what we were looking for in service dogs were puppies who really asked for help. That really predicted service dog success. But also what we found was that the puppies who played this game, and people can play this game at home, puppies who played this game for 5 minutes every 2 weeks made double the amount of eye contact than puppies who didn't. And eye contact, of course, is really important to the bond between dogs and their owners. Puppies who make a lot of eye contact get adopted out of the shelter faster. People who have dogs who make a lot of eye contact report having a better relationship. So this was just one fun thing we did that really seemed to make a difference.
Sorry, okay, can you just tell that game again? Exactly what, can you just take us through that one more time?
Those snap lock containers that you have, they're good for keeping things fresher in the refrigerator. You lock things in. So you show your puppy a treat, and then you do a few trials where they can nudge the top off if they persist a little bit. So they can nudge the top off and get a treat. And then on the 3rd or 4th time, you put the treat in there and you lock it. You snap it shut. And dogs, since they don't have opposable thumbs, cannot get the treat out. And so the test is to see what they do after that.
Right.
And
They
like I
come
said,
and
some
ask you
puppies
for help.
and some puppies are so determined they don't even look at you. They don't even want to know what you do in this situation. But other puppies, they make a lot of eye contact. They'll come and they'll put their head on your lap. They'll like paw at you. It's really obvious that they're asking.
So just doing this exercise itself improved cognition, what you said. Is that right?
Yes,
Just
it improves eye contact, which is super important for bonding.
Right. And the eye contact part, is there certain dogs that just have a predisposition to having better eye contact than others? Or is this is this something that can be
It's
learned?
both. This is something that's like nature and nurture at the same time. So there are puppies who from 8 weeks old make tons of eye contact. Like they just love to hug you with their eyes. And there are some other puppies who are just really independent. But after exposure to this task for 5 minutes every 2 weeks, it just increases the amount of eye contact that all puppies make.
In part of the book, you were talking about like genetic influences and then how that relates to the cognitive side. And so you said this POMC gene is linked to obesity, and that was like could tell if the dog would become a service dog. And so can you explain like how, if that's correct, or like how like the genetics influence cognitive?
Sure. So it's always, and Dr. Goel, you would know this, it's never nature or nurture. It's always a combination of both. So the challenge is to always like figure out what weight each has, or the influence, the relative influence of genetics and then environment. So the POMC gene is a gene that does predispose labs and some people, I think, to obesity. It just makes you sort of like really food motivated. And so service dogs have more of this gene. They're more likely to have this gene than other dogs because they're just
means
super
they're more obese. They become
No, they're
more.
no,
hungry.
not more obese. They're just super food motivated.
Yeah.
It's oh yeah, if they had free access
They would
to
become
food all the
obese.
time, yes,
Yeah.
they would very quickly become obese. But it's just that they're super food motivated, and
Oh, it
with
means that
these
they're very good for
puppies,
retraining. They could be trained very
we
well
don't
because they're
use
super.
any negative reinforcement. And so if you're trying to get a puppy to do something, the best sort of like tool you have is just kibble and treats. So if they're super motivated to get it, they're more likely to graduate as a service dog.
Okay, interesting.
Interesting.
Mhm.
That's a very important part. I'd like to just to touch that because a lot of viewers are probably asking about this training piece and positive versus negative reinforcement. I even know our dog, we had sent them off for 1 month
Yeah,
for a dog's hotel, a school or whatever.
yeah, training.
It was sad but then what I found, they had this thing where if they had to come out of the cage early, they would just push the cage on them. And I don't know. We found that she came back, she was a bit withdrawn. I'm just saying that it's very common. I feel like they put what about collars? What do you think about these?
Oh, the
Shock
e-collars, we don't
E-collar.
use any kind of shock collars on the puppies. We
Yeah.
don't use any kind of aversive training. These are just basically the most spoiled puppy you will ever meet in your life. We don't even tell them no a lot of times. I think it really follows like the pattern of child rearing now. I was slapped every once in a while when I was growing up, and I certainly do not slap my children now. So it's all about like redirection. It's about positive reinforcement, like rewarding them when they do something good. And yeah, we really stick to that.
And so what's the science on that? Because I just want our viewers to hear that. Is there strong science about that positive reinforcement works better than negative reinforcement?
I think it really depends on the research. There is a researcher that I was just wishing DC, and I'm blanking on her name, but she did her PhD basically on positive and negative reinforcement. And I think she found that positive reinforcement worked just as well, if not better. And I know there's like a case by case basis, but yeah, I'm not sure, but I do know that she did not find that negative reinforcement was significantly more successful.
In your book, you said that, or I was just wondering, why labs? Like, why are labs the service dog? Like, why can't, like, we have a bulldog? So, like,
Great question.
just
Yes, your bulldog could definitely be a service dog if they
Yeah,
wanted
she's
to.
definitely.
I think that so we work with Canine Companions, and so they're the largest service dog organization in the US. And they use lab golden retriever mixes, not because other breeds of dogs couldn't be service dogs, but because that's what really people think of when they think of a service dog. And so if you're dealing with people who have disabilities, they have enough barriers of entry into society without then also having to explain that their Jack Russell cockapoo mix is really a service dog. And so that's just why they do it. There are other breeds of service dogs, German Shepherds. We work with also ears, eyes, nose, and paws. And I remember that we just using the dogs who were best trained to do the task. But I think even they've moved to labs and golden retrievers just because it's confusing for people, and the differences between a therapy dog, an emotional support dog, and a service dog are all so difficult that if someone has a disability, and especially if it's not like an obvious disability, if they turn up with a lab in a vest that looks like a service dog, it's just less to have to try and
you were also saying that certain dogs have like better memory or better like self-control or something like that. So I think the labs have better memory or something like that, right?
No, that's good. You have a good memory. So what we did manage to do is that we helped with this citizen science project called Cognition, where people at home could test their dog using the same games that we play at Duke, but they could do it at home and then enter in the results, and then they could compare the performance of their dogs with all the other dogs, the tens of thousands of dogs that we had in our database. And so when we were looking at breed differences with those, we found that I think it was like different dogs have different types of intelligence, and it was no breed that came out universally on top of everything. And the other interesting thing was the breeds that did come out on top weren't the ones that you traditionally think of as smart dogs, like border collies, German shepherds, poodles. It was, I think, that pit bulls had the best memories, and Bernese mountain dogs were the best like communicators. Spaniels had the best like what we called empathy, just the ability to make eye contact. And let's see, what was the other one? I can't remember who was best on the physics, but yes, it wasn't someone you'd expect.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I want to come back to that point where you said you began really with filming of chimpanzees and really looking at their behavior. So I think what Vyoma told me, you'd written down that dogs are really special because they have been very close to humans. So they're extremely, probably you said, better than chimpanzees or other animals at the whole communication part. Is that true?
So that was a really big surprise. So that was something that Brian discovered actually when he was about your age in college, 19. And it was this sort of thing that his professor, Mike Tomasello, had said was really unique to humans, is that they're able to, when you're about 9 months old, you start following people's pointing. And it's not that you're just following, if your mom points something out to you, it's not just that you're following her finger, you're able to understand that she knows something you don't know, and that she's making a gesture to try and help you. She's trying to point something out to help you reach a goal, to help you recognize like a person who's important. And Mike's whole thing was that this was something that was really unique to humans. And Brian's, I think my dog does that. If he loses a ball, because his old dog Oreo used to chase tennis balls. So if I lose a ball and then point in the direction to help him find it, he would just follow my point. And that just started this whole series of studies. And it turns out that dogs are better than our closest living relatives, chimpanzees and bonobos, at following these cooperative communicative gestures. And that was like a really huge surprise, because before this was thought to be something that was really unique to human. And really the foundation of all learning and culture sort of starts with this really simple ability to follow gestures.
One other thing that I thought was really cool that you wrote about was this guilty look that they had at dogs, and they actually know what they're doing. Or do they know what they're doing? Like, do they do it on purpose to get what they want?
Dogs have evolved this muscle called the AU101, and it's just the front of the eyebrow.
I feel like their eyebrows go up and down.
Yes, the eyebrows go up and down. So wolves don't have this muscle. And so what dogs do is that they lift up their eyebrow to show you more of their eyes. And so you can actually see the whites of their eyes a lot better. As you say, you can look at all sorts of photographs and footage of wolves, and wolves do not do this, but especially puppies, and that's why they call it puppy dog eyes. They will lift their eyes, show their white sclera at you, and there's just parts of our brain that just subconsciously, really, our neurons start firing if we see this white sclera, because that's how we recognize other humans. Because that's something different from humans and primates, is that we advertise our eyes and where we're looking, and chimpanzees don't do this. So the fact that dogs do this just comes back to that sort of like eye contact and bonding, because showing the whites of their eyes like that sort of like triggers something in us, and it makes our oxytocin go up and their oxytocin go up, and it creates this like oxytocin bonding loop. So I think the best evidence is they don't feel guilty, but they do use that look a lot.
But they must know they're doing it, right? Obviously, this is it's consciously done, probably.
I think they probably know they're doing it as much as we know that we're doing it. If we, I think it just follows some emotion they're having, and sometimes they're really just hugging you with their eyes.
I also noticed they can do one eyebrow much easier. They seem to be probably better than what some humans.
Some dogs have crazy eyebrows, like the schnauzers. I find are really crazy with the way they can wiggle their eyebrows around.
How did so the purpose of the study, I know you have this the university in effect, like you're saying, a campus or something for these dogs. And so was the purpose just to find out what the effect of all this extra socialization would be on the dogs, or was there something else that you're trying to do with this type of work?
So we had 101 puppies through the kindergarten, and the purpose of the overall study was to figure out how to graduate more service dogs. So like running, so all the 101 puppies were tested every 2 weeks on this kind of like battery of cognitive games to see if we could match who made it with their cognitive profile. But then those 101 puppies were split up into 2 groups, and that was the rearing experiment. So 50 were just raised in a normal home the way you or I would just raise a puppy, and the other 50 were in this part of this like super socialization condition where they were on Duke's campus raised by the undergraduates.
And those are the ones where you saw no difference in their on how well they became a service dog or not.
No difference in their cognitive performance anyway. Like no difference
Okay.
to the way they performed in these games.
Did you have a favorite class?
Oh, I would say that my favorite class was probably fall 19. Like I think my favorite class and the worst class, like that was the one where all the puppies looked the same. And they just all arrived, and we'd only had 2 puppies, and then we'd had 3 puppies, and then all of a sudden we had 7 puppies. And I'm not sure if it was my favorite class, but it definitely formed a core memory. And it felt like something in surviving that class, I think. And just after that, we were like, and that class just so clearly emphasized all the lessons we were about to learn in terms of like the different intelligences the puppies had, the individual differences, and that you just really cannot judge a puppy by what they look like, because they are all so different.
Because even in that class, like one of the siblings in that class, like one was really good at these games and one wasn't really good at these games, but they were part of the same litter.
Yeah, and I think all parents figure that out as soon as they have 2 kids, is that you can have 2 kids raised in the same home exactly the same way, and they are still very different. And yeah, that's what we found with the puppies too.
Interesting.
So what's the next questions you're trying to answer, or where's the research looking at next?
So we actually just sort of had our 101st puppy through the kindergarten, and that was like last semester. So now we want to see who graduates, because it takes 18 months for them to graduate. Some of the puppies we've had through the kindergarten, we know if they graduated, we know if they made it. We tested them just before they went off to professional training, but now it's going to be waiting to see all 101 puppies. We're going to wait 18 months until the last one, or like a year until the last one graduates, and then we'll go and test them again, and then we should be able to say with some certainty to answer the big question, what kind of cognitive profile most likely predicts service dog success.
I have a question. Was there anything else, maybe you were looking for it, but were there any other differences that happened between the 2 groups, let's say with health parameters, or any other types of things, differences that could be from the socialization that could happen?
Nothing yet.
Yeah.
Like literally nothing yet. We haven't looked at the temperament data yet in a lot of detail, but so far nothing.
Okay. Yeah. So what would be the message you would want to give? I know there's a book, Puppy Kindergarten, you've just recently got put out. Where can our viewers get it from?
So it's available everywhere books are sold. We always like supporting independent bookstores. So if you have a favorite one to go to, definitely pick it up from there.
And what would be the key message you'd want the viewers to get from it? What's the take home?
So I think that we're in this cultural moment right now that's really shifted in terms of dog owning, and it's happened really fast. When I was growing up, I had more of a free range childhood than my kids do right now. And the same was true for my dog. Like my dog used to jump the fence in the morning and then come back sometime just in time for dinner. And you didn't really know where she went or what she was doing. And the same was true for my parents and me. But now it really is that parents are much more involved with kids, and now by default they're dogs, and dogs are very rarely off leash. They are much more part of the family. They have all these structured activities. You have to take them to class. You got to make sure they get exercised.
Our dog goes has a whole daycare every single day.
That's right. Goes to school.
Yeah.
And so this is really, but it's also very wonderful because now they're much more integrated into the family. They come on vacations. They pose for Christmas cards. They're like here all the time. But it really it requires something different, I think, of what we've required of dogs for the last 14 to 40,000 years. And that is that we don't need our dogs to guard our homes, our properties, and the things and people we love. And so what we really need are, and people were asking us, like, what is it is there a group of dogs or a breed of dogs that really fit into this modern lifestyle at this point of cultural change? And we were like, oh my gosh, yes, it's service dogs. So that's really why we wrote the book, is because we realized that service dogs have always been ahead of popular culture in that they've always had to sit nicely at a restaurant. They've always had to be like
Yes.
kind to the elderly and good with kids. Like they've always had to go on vacations and fly on planes. So it is like, what is it about these dogs and raising these dogs that we can share to help people raise the kind of dogs that really like fit into this cultural moment that we're in?
But it sounds like any breed can be a service dog, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's not about the
Yeah.
breed. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
not
big
about the
lesson.
breed.
It is not
Yeah,
about the breed.
right.
Yes, it's just,
Mhm.
we want dogs to be friendly and confident. And that is the main thing we found, is not that service dogs are smarter
Mhm.
than other kinds of dogs, is that they're just very tolerant.
Mm.
They're very friendly, they're very tolerant, and that's to the future of dog breeding. I think there's a
Mhm.
lot of emphasis on what a dog looks like and what kind
Mm.
of breed means this and that, but it's
Yeah,
really like breeding dogs to be more like service dogs, so
yeah.
kind and tolerant and friendly and confident. And I think that's the future. And in terms of raising your dog, then socialization is like super important. You can play games like this eye contact game that can
Right.
improve your relationship, and some other things that we found along the way.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool.
I really appreciate that time.
Thank you.
That's thank you so much for your time today.
That's no worries. It was good to talk
No,
to you both.
It all worked
thank
out.
you.
Thank you. All right, we'll catch up with you soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you all for listening. What I got away from this conversation was that puppies are becoming more and more part of our daily lives. They're becoming more part of our family. So how can we integrate them in our lives more than they already are, make them more friendly, and really just have them with us all the time?
Yeah, and I got out of this that there are simple things you can do to improve your dog's cognition, including some simple games. We learned one about increasing eye contact, which is really important for dogs. I guess improve their cognition. So that's really interesting. I hope you enjoyed it, and please, you can visit uh, Vanessa Woods' website, vanessawoods.net, where you can purchase her book, Puppy Kindergarten. It's also available anywhere else you purchase books. If you like this video, please like it and share with all your friends. It goes a long way to making sure we can get this content out to you. We're trying to interview people who really care about dogs and making sure they can live a long and healthy life. Take care.